This is totally unscripted. This is day one of PhilCon 2015. So I've been to a few panels today. The first one that I went to is That's Not a Story, What Is It? It was a discussion about what is a story and what isn't a story, and getting into filler things. It was an interesting panel, not the greatest panel. I wonder what the heater or air conditioner or whatever kicked on, and so maybe you'll hear that in the background. I'll have to see what the audio is like with this thing. I'm just trying to record this on my Surface and see what happens. It was an okay panel. That was at 5 p.m. It was one of the second panels that it was in I think it was the first panel. It was open in the con, and a few people there. That was interesting. The second panel was much more interesting, examining characters in hard science fiction, and that gets back into the discussion of what is hard science fiction and what is a character. And some of the more interesting discussions is what is a character? Can a world be a character? Can an artificial intelligence be a character, or whatever? And that was a little bit more lively. I took a little bit of a break for dinner, and then came back to an interesting panel on does science fiction have anything interesting to say about sex? And that was much more interesting. It was a lively discussion about what are some of the strange things that have happened in science fiction, and some authors, and how much sex is in some stories, and can you have too much sex? Can you have not enough sex? And various discussions, some hints about some truly unusual sexual things that happen in the natural world. We didn't get into much of that, but sort of the panel was that most people, or that sex is an important part of life, and so that it's there. Then I went to was sort of supposed to be a round table, which is much more just people sitting around talking. It says, ask anything, adult topics in science fiction and fandom. And that was a lively discussion too. It went on, and we talked about some interesting discussions. That one brought up the discussion of asexual. You do run into some people who don't believe that they're completely asexual, and some BDSM, and some discussions about how open and accepting the science fiction community has always been with regard to strange people, and things like that. Talking about some of the Japanese hentai, which is tentacle sex, and interesting discussion. So it was a first day of a con. I haven't been to a con in a while for various reasons, and so I thought I'd just see if I could do a sort of a stream of consciousness discussion about what was going on. It's been good to get back into the science fiction convention scene. I haven't been to one for a while. I was running around. I'm not wearing it right now, but I had Millennium PhilCon t-shirt on most of the day, which I bought 15 years ago when I was at the PhilCon in 2000. And so I've got some new fresh t-shirts, which I would have been looking forward to seeing that. Probably the thing that's the most, shall we say, discouraging for me is, shall we say, the graying of the con. The age of the people at the convention appears to be a bit older, that we're not attracting the young fans, which is a shame. Science fiction is getting older as more and more people. We're not pulling in as many of the young generation as I'd like to have seen, because I don't know, they're not at the conventions. So that was probably the only thing. The interesting. Ordered the hotel is a nice, relatively nice place. It's interesting, but this was just a sort of a stream of consciousness and day one thought about PhilCon 2015.